Now we move on to the detailed study of the test. We learn some new words and expressions here. Please look at paragraph 1. Genetically modified food or GM food, for short, go under any different names including transgenic food, genetically engineered food, or biotech food. A transgene is a gene or genetic material that has been transferred naturally or by genetic engineering techniques from one organism to another. Now look at the prefix trans. It has two meanings. One is or to the other side of, across or beyond. For example, transatlantic. Second, so as to change in form or position. For example, transform, transplant. Transmission, transformation, transactions are the three words with prefix trans occasionally mixed up by students. Transmission in telecommunication is the process of sending, propagating analog or digital information signal. For example, the transmission of a music concert is scheduled for 10 p.m. tonight. Transmission in medicine, the passing of disease from an insect host individual or group to a particular individual group. Look at the example here. The researchers looked for ways to combat transmission of Ebola virus. If you have watched the movie Transformer, you may have a better understanding of transformation. Look at this example here. Transformation of Maria was amazing. She went from a country girl to a supermodel. And in molecular biology, transformation is genetic alteration of a cell. Transformation is one of the three forms of horizontal gene transfer that occur in nature among bacteria, in which DNA encoding for a trait passes from one bacterium to another. Transaction has two meanings. Financial transaction, an agreement, communication, or movement carried out between a buyer or a seller to exchange an asset for payment. For example, many of the sales transactions were complete in private. Then second meaning, that means debit or credits in double entry bookkeeping system. For example, I printed out my bank statement showing all transactions within the last 4 weeks. Now we learn three medical terms with the prefix trans. Transgene, as what we have in the test. A transgene is a gene or genetic material that has been transferred naturally or by any of member of genetic engineering techniques from one original to another. This introduction of transgene has the potential to change the phenotype of an organism. Second one, trans fat or trans fatty acid are type of unsaturated fat that are uncommon in nature but become commonly produced industrially from vegetable fats for the use of margarine, snack food, packaged baked food, and frying fries food starting from 1950s. In 2015, the FDA finalized its determination that trans fats are not generally recognized as safe and set a 3-year time limit for their removal from all processed foods. Foods with trans fat include French fries, cakes mix, and frosting. Even if you find a cake or muffin mix that's trans fat-free, you should still see telltale word shortening and many ingredient list, which means there are trace amounts. Fried chicken, ice cream, certain flavor of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, including pineapple coconut, cherry vanilla, caramel, corn, green tea, or even plain old vanilla, contain 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving. Non-dairy creamer. For coffee lovers, non-dairy creamer can become an integral part of your morning. Over time, however, they can also add a considerable amount of trans fat to your diet. Trans fat has been shown consistently be associated in an intake-dependent way, with the increased risk of coronary disease, a leading cause of death in Western nations. Now we look at paragraph 20. GM food can be detrimental to human health. The main concerns about adverse effects of GM food on health are the transfer of antibiotic resistance, toxicity, allergenicity. Now you can find two synonyms here, detrimental and adverse. Detrimental means causing damage or injury. Detrimental has Latin origin. Detrimentum, that means harm, come from deter. De, that means down or away. Ter, that means to rob or grab. Detrimental implies obvious harmfulness to something specified, often followed with to, be detrimental to. For example, she argues that watching too much TV is detrimental to a child's intellectual and social development. Adverse has also got Latin origins. Adversus, that means turn against. Ad, that means to. Verse means to turn. It has two meanings. That means opposite or confronting. For example, we can say adverse page, adverse party, adverse wind. And unfavorable, the example is adverse criticism, adverse circumstances. So let's see some collocations of detrimental and adverse. Detrimental effect, detrimental impact, detrimental corrosion, detrimental settlement. And for adverse effect, adverse impact, adverse selection, adverse reaction, adverse weather. Now let's make a sentence. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to liver. Your persisting in doing so will have adverse consequences. So that's the end of vocabulary learning. Now we move on to the way of introducing a disputed issue. In paragraph 22, it says the risk versus benefit of GM food is not an easy issue to settle. You can express the same opinion as in paragraph 22 in different ways. You can say, the issue is whether we should develop GM food has been widely debated in our community recently. We have different expressions to address it, as what we have in the text, benefits and risks, and also advantages, disadvantages, strengths and weaknesses, the upside and the downside, pros and cons. There are hundreds of ways of introducing a disputed issue. So now we'll take a close look at the introductory method of a controversy. A variety of different arguments have been put forward about GM food. The issue of whether we should promote GM food has been widely debated in our community. The discussion about GM food is a very controversial issue. There is a controversy today concerning the issue that GM food can fight world hunger. Those who criticize GM food hold that GM food are detrimental to our health, but people who advocate GM food, on the other hand, argue that GM food can help medicine. There is a long-running debate as to whether GM food are in best position to address the need for increasing food production. There are people on both sides of the argument who have very strong feeling about GM food. Some argue that GM food can harm the environment, but others set forth totally different argument about the issue of adverse effect of GM plant on the environment. In paragraph 11, they also try to advocate the benefits by saying GM food are safe and pose no threat to human health. So you may pose your supportive point of view in the following way. Those who have already benefited from practicing it sing high praise of it. Those who strongly approve of GM food have cogent reasons for it. GM researchers open us a new world and add to our knowledge enabling human beings to know more about the universe as well as about the Earth. GM food save lives from adverse conditions, and together with transgenic technology, they have helped us understand our world better. So now look at paragraph 13. Here the author tries to demonstrate the risk of GM food by giving examples. The opponent of GM food may be scientists, environmentalists, and of course consumer groups. In addition, many celebrities are openly anti-GM, thus setting role models for the public. And you can show your strong disagreement by saying, GM food could become a serious worldwide threat. Some people contend that GM food has proved to bring many disadvantages. The other side of the coin has voiced a strong opposition, saying that GM food can develop resistance. On more than one occasion, GM food provoked riots, and there were those who voiced adverse opinion in public. Majority groups find themselves in advantageous position when they see GM food as a solution to the food shortage. They argue that new regulations would place GM food at a competitive disadvantage in the marketplace. So now we have covered ways of introducing a dispute, giving supportive points and convincing oppositions. So I just wound up here. Thank you.